Good morning. It's still morning for another 2 minutes, and then it's gonna be afternoon. Well, welcome to your daily dose of salt and light with me, Nadine Ness. Today is oh, sorry. Today is December 4th, Wednesday. I think it's Wednesday. Yeah, Wednesday, December 4th. Boy, do we also have a lot to cover today. I know I said that yesterday that I had a lot to cover, but there's so much that's happening right now in Canadian politics, in world news, and I wanted to cover some of it. There was a few things that I wanted to talk about. I don't think we're going to have time. So I'm going to leave it to tomorrow. That will be I wanted to talk about the ruling that just is happening right now. There's a big court case that talks about gender transitioning and gender treatment and stuff that's happening in the US. So that's going through the Supreme Court. Let me know if you can hear me okay. If it's scratching, I think I've got the settings better. Um, no, I don't even hear myself a little bit. There you go. I think now it's better. Yeah, let me know if they're scratching or if there's anything. Good here on Facebook, so no scratching. Oh, no. Some people are saying it. Is it good now? Because I just turned it way down. Okay. Okay. So we're good. So some people are hearing it on X, some people are hearing it on Facebook. Okay, hopefully it's going to work. I think we got it figured out, but again, it was working last night when we tried it out. So not sure why it's doing it now. Maybe maybe I should pray about it. Dear Lord, make it so that there's no technical difficulty. Anything that comes against getting the truth out there, Lord, I pray that you stop it and I pray that you allow it to go without a hitch. I pray this in Jesus' name. So yeah, it's happening again. Well, maybe it's just when I talk too loud. I'll see if I can lower it a bit more. Can you guys still hear me if I lower it? I hope so. So, okay, we've got so much to cover. I'm going to try to get into it as fast as I can, but there's a lot of information, there's a lot of videos, and we're going to be doing clips. I still haven't done it yet. There's a program that was doing it. I just don't like the quality of the clips that it's creating in the titles and stuff. So I'm going to try something else with an AI program to do it. So, but I'll get into the subjects. Again, I wish I would have had more time to research this fully. So what I'm going to be giving you as information is obviously not all the details that are out there, just what I've consumed so far and what I've kind of come to know so far. The first thing, obviously there was no alien invasion yesterday. um but there are some weird stuff happening that I saw being reported yesterday and I wanted to share with you guys. So I'll just get my screen going here. So you can see it here. There's actually a video too. So I'll play the video of the news article, but first I'll read to you what this guy says. It's actually in selling. There are not up for 50 they are not up for 15 minutes. They're up for hours. Some are the size of a car. New Jersey residents are growing more concerns with the drone incursions happening above their state for the past 2 weeks. Presidents residents told not to approach down drones and and usual air traffic has reduced significantly. So some people are saying that these drones may be aliens. I've seen some videos. It's being reported on. Nobody really knows, and like police are saying, if one goes down, don't approach it. Call us, kind of thing. So I'll switch to the video, but that's good. Hopefully, let me know if the video plays. I'm pretty sure I got the right settings this time. So let's see. And let me know if the sound of the video is good.
Hey, Ernie and Candace, the FAA has placed a temporary restriction on drone flights over Picatinny Arsenal and over Trump National Golf Course in Bedminster. When these drones were first spotted 2 weeks ago, the Morris County Prosecutor's Office said that they posed no known threat to public safety. But people want to know, what the heck are they and what are they doing? It's normal to see red and green lights in December, unless they're coming from mysterious drones in the night sky.
It's kind of unsettling. They're not up for 15 minutes, they're up for hours. Some are very big, probably size of a car.
Mike Walsh says he's seen hundreds of them over the past 2 weeks from his Randolph backyard and has the video to prove it.
They kind of go slow, they come towards you, then they'll change direction a little. They're all going different ways.
The drones have been spotted all over Morris County. Morristown police sent an alert to residents Sunday saying they are aware of drone activity and that if a drone crashes or lands, do not approach or handle it. The FBI's Newark field office would only say it is working with other law enforcement agencies to figure out what's going on, but at the moment doesn't have enough information to share.
A lot of people want to know what's going on. I think more people are coming around to that, oh, this is going on and maybe it's not good.
Nancy Reed didn't want to show her face on camera, but says she's seen the drones every night since November 18th.
I can see them right out my bedroom window. I can watch them. Last night was about 5:30, so it was earlier. But it's normally anywhere between like 7:30 and 10:30, they're out here. Never during the day. Nobody ever sees them during the day.
One thing she hasn't seen is the normal air traffic she's used to, and she doesn't understand why.
We're in the fly pattern going to like Morristown Airport and Newark, and we used to see a lot of planes coming back and forth. You don't see them anymore.
Now, we also reached out to Picatinny Arsenal because of reports that the drones were flying over the military base. So far, we have not heard back. Reporting live in Randolph, New Jersey, I'm Katie Corrado, Pix 11 News. Hey, Ernie and Candace.
So what do you guys think? Do you think these are military exercises where they're having more and more advanced drones? We saw that. Like, I don't know if you guys seen footage. I kind of regret seeing it, but they were using drones in the Ukraine-Russia war. And I can't remember if it was a Ukrainian army person or a Russian army personnel that got a soldier that got shot. But basically they'd bring these drones next to them and these drones would explode, killing them. So and there's videos attached to it, so you can actually see the videos of it. But anyways, I don't know if that's what it is. Maybe it's aliens, the fact that they say they're the size of cars. I've never seen one of those, but you never know. Anyways, let me know what you think. Do you think they're aliens? Or do you think it's just the army doing something extra special? And the funny thing is, it's flying over the Trump golf course too. So it makes you wonder, is it someone scoping that for future assassination attempts? I don't know, but no alien invasion that we know of. There was no war in the sky that like it was predicted yet. But yeah, I thought that was really interesting. So I'll switch to the next story. Okay, so this one is a video as well. So, and I'll play the video. I just realized I didn't add it to my screen where you guys can hear it. So I'll just do that right now. Okay, here you go. So there's a standing committee on human resources, skills, and social development and the status of person with disability. So Michelle Ferrari, I don't know if you know her, she's a Canadian MP, and they've been trying to talk a lot about trans women being allowed in male prisons and what that means for female prisoners. So this video is part of the questioning that occurred, but she brings to light a very serious problem. And you see the response of Jenna Suds, who who responds back, like just basically pretending it's not happening. But anyways, I'll play the video because this is really interesting information, and I'll share my thoughts on it afterwards with as someone who's trained to profile child sex offenders. So that's pedophiles, all types of sex offenders. I'm trained to profile them and interview them, and I'll share my thoughts from that perspective. I was a former police officer who was trained in hopes of one day getting into the ICE unit, medical condition, fainting condition that put me in a wheelchair. Stopped me from being able to do that. I'm cured now, but at the time we couldn't figure it out. But anyways, I'll play that video for you guys. And I didn't know this was happening until I saw Michelle Ferrari bring awareness to this, which I'm glad they are.
Minister, Terry Lynn McClintock, who abducted and then assisted her boyfriend in the sexually motivated killing of 8-year-old Tori Stafford, has been allowed in the presence of children through a mother-child program at a women's federal penitentiary, as well as Tara D'Souza, who was Adam Lubukayan, who sexually assaulted a baby in 1997, became the youngest dangerous offender in history, now lives with mothers and children in a BC jail. Are you advocating? Are you bringing this up to your ministers? Are you advocating that sex offenders and child killers do not have access to children in federal prisons?
Sorry. I find this line of questioning and these innuendos completely disrespectful. Frankly, let me
Tori
answer.
Stafford's dad finds you completely disrespectful. Just
Can I
answer the
answer the
question.
question,
Yes,
Chair?
please do.
Yeah. So again, as the Minister for Families and Children who wakes up every day with the responsibility to ensure that we look out for the kids across this country, I take absolutely every opportunity to do that. I live and breathe it, frankly. And of course, as a cabinet, we have conversations. We work collaboratively together where there is cross, touching on various portfolios. And of course, I will always advocate for children's safety.
And will you commit to following up, visiting a federal penitentiary and seeing where these child killers and convicted sex offenders are sharing space with mothers and children?
I appreciate the question. I appreciate what you are trying to do here, respectfully.
Trying to do? What I'm trying to do?
Respectfully, yes, trying to do.
What am I trying to do, Minister? Tell me, please. What is it?
Your time is up.
So someone says in the background, protect children. So while I was listening to this, I listened to it earlier today. I didn't know about this case. So Michael Rafferty was the one who was convicted of murdering. So she was abducted, raped, and murdered by Michael Rafferty and Terry Lynn. I'm just reading upon. I want to go back and see what she said.
Terry Lynn McClintock, who abducted and then assisted her boyfriend in the sexually motivated killing of 8-year-old Tori Stafford, has been allowed in the presence of children
Okay,
through
so
a
it's a
mother-child
bit different.
program
I'm
at a
going to
women's
correct.
federal penitentiary, as well as Tara D'Souza, who was Adam.
Okay, so it's not just trans. So the first case is Tara Lynn McClintock. So Terry Lynn McClintock. So she wasn't a man before. She's a woman, always has been a woman, but she was co-accused with Michael Rafferty for killing this girl, Victoria or Tori Stafford. From my understanding, she was 8 when she was abducted. So Terry Lynn has access to children. So now I don't know if you know, but in many of the prisons, if women go in there who have children, they get to still spend time with their kids. They bring the kids in for mother child time. Also with babies, there's different scenarios. Anyways, what she's saying is that Terry Lynn McClintock, who's already in female prison, is having access to children through this program. And then not Michael Rafferty, the other one, Adam Labucan. I don't know. I don't know if it's you say it the French way or not. Has transitioned into being a woman, Tara D'Souza, and now has access to this same program, access to children. So from my understanding, I'm just going to replay it quickly here.
Lubukayan, who sexually assaulted a baby in
He sexually assaulted a baby,
1997, became the youngest
offender in history.
dangerous offender in history, now lives with
He lives with mothers and children in a BC jail. So Michelle is bringing awareness to this. It's not really being talked about, and I want to talk about it. I want to bring more awareness because I think that needs to change. I think children need to be protected. I don't think we should stop children for having access to their mothers in these jails, because I think I'm someone who grew up without one of my parents. I saw very rarely my mother growing up. And I know the impact that it has on a child. It's really important for children to still have access to family members, whether they're in prison or not. So I fully support that program. What I don't support is men being allowed to go into these environments. Now, why do I have problem with that? Again, I was trained to profile child sex offenders. I was trained to profile sex offenders. And because not all sex offenders offend on children, not all child sex offenders are pedophiles. I've talked about that. Some people, it's just it's not even a sexual attraction to children. It's a dominance over the vulnerable. So those ones will usually, it's not just a sexual attraction. It's that dominance over a vulnerable person. So they'll abuse children, they'll abuse babies, they'll abuse elderly, anyone, or even people who are mentally less capable. So handicap, whatever, how you want to call it, whatever the approved name is now. But so they'll abuse anyone they have access to. So the fact that this now being called a woman person has access to children, and he's one of those abusers that abused a baby, like a baby. So he would usually fit into that category. Most of the time when it's infants, they fit into that category of profiling. Are there exceptions outside of the rule? Yes, there are, but the majority would fit into that profile as soon as the victim is a baby. And there's different levels. There's prepubescent, postpubescent offenders, and then there's toddlers and infants, and they all have different categories. Now, for my training and what I learned, and it wasn't just a little bit of training, we studied all different types of child sex offenders. The worst, the ones that didn't offend yet but was fantasized it. We studied all of them. And one of the things that was a clear core or a clear indication or something that happened with almost every single one of them is they would morph their reality to make what they were doing okay. They would groom themselves. And I use that term because people need to understand what they do. So they would groom themselves to be in positions to access children or access their target victim. And that might be taking a bachelor's degree in education to become a teacher. That might be going to seminary school to become a youth leader, a youth pastor. That might be volunteering as a coach or taking training to be a coach. All these different things they would do. Not only that, they would morph themselves to be less they would morph themselves or manipulate those around them to be less suspicious or less likely to be caught, less likely to be and that can mean a million different things. That can mean getting married and having children. Like some will get married and have children or adopt children just so that they don't appear to be a sex offender, a pedophile. So you see that a lot. So that's what we would call grooming. One of those categories that they would do, that we've seen, that we heard about, is that they would dress as a woman, because there's this public perception that women are less of a threat to children. So, in generally speaking, women are less likely to offend on children. Not to the level the public believes. The public believes it's extremely rare. However, it's not. When we were trained, 1 in 4 sex offenders were women. And yes, some of you will think that that's no way possible, but based on the data that we had, it actually was the most accurate estimation of the amount of offenders that were women. However, most of the male victims never come forward. Most of them never gets brought to light, and there's this societal acceptance, and whether you want to admit it or not, it's true. You'll have a female teacher that will sexually abuse a student, and then the people will be like, "Oh, she's hot. He was lucky." Like, but that's actually the societal, um, I guess, acceptance of that. So male victims often will not come forward. They don't want to appear weak. They don't want to, and this doesn't make them weak if them coming forward, but that's just what they feel inside. So so there's this public perception that women won't offend. So of course, somebody who wants to offend, who wants to have access, they'll, like I said, they'll do anything. They'll go to school for 8, 10 years to have access to unsupervised with children. What makes you think that they're not going to start dressing of the opposite sex or looking like the opposite sex if they think that they can get away with it, if they think that they can have access to children? And this is actually one of the criterias of pedophiles. It's actually one of the things that many will go to and I'm not saying that all trans women are pedophiles. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying there's a sector of pedophiles and child sex offenders that will go in that route. And to ignore that and pretend that's not happening is not right, and it's not fair to children. And I think more needs to be, and I've talked about this yesterday, more needs to be put in place to protect children from these types of offenders. And I'm glad Michelle Ferrari is bringing light to this, because it it's a problem. And as we are allowing trans women, especially not the regular trans women, but especially the ones who are sex offenders, once we are allowing them to use that avenue to access children and women, you'll see that as well with just ones who aren't pedophiles but who are sex offenders. You'll see that a lot. They'll transition in prison to hopefully go into the women's prison and have access to women. And there's cases after cases of that happening. And again, for me, it's not a personal vendetta. It's not a hatred towards any type of groups of people. It's, I was trained to profile sex offenders. I know how they think. I know how they work. And I was taught how they think, and I was taught about how they work. And we were taught that by listening to sex offenders share their own stories. All sex offenders that were in jail forever, that had nothing to lose, that were sharing the way they work. So I've listened to, I think there was something like 60 case studies where we listened to entire interviews, them describe the awful things they did, them describe how they manipulated the people around them. And not only that, yeah, it was just, it was awful to go through that, but it gave me a perspective in life that I'm glad I have now. And that's why I'm glad Michelle Ferrari is bringing light to this. I find it appalling that Genocides is not even answering to it and saying, you know what? Yeah, we're going to look into this, or we're going to do something to protect these women and children. She's saying this is a political agenda. And the fact that they're even saying that, this should be a nonpartisan thing. Protecting children from sex offenders should be a nonpartisan thing. It just goes to show how many have put politics ahead of kids. And I just find it appalling. But yeah, I have strong feelings on this. So, okay, next story. I'm going to talk a little bit about the Trudeau Trump border annexing, the trolling, all sorts of things. But I have a video here. I was hoping it would have captions in English, but I wasn't able to find one. So I just have the post of what the president of Mexico said, and I'll show you the post. Here, give me 1 second. So this is in Spanish, but on Twitter you can click translate post. So I'll translate it for you. You can read it too, but I'll read it out loud for my listeners who aren't necessarily watching. And if sometimes the writing is so small people can't see it. So Mexico is respected and cannot be treated less. Claudia Shane stresses. Is it clear? It says he points out. I think it's she. I don't know why it says he. He points out that Canada also has a problem with fentanyl consumption among its citizens due to a drug access policy that was implemented in previous years. It is different from the problem that occurs in Mexico, where consumption is minimal. So basically, she's pointing to the free access to drugs, fentanyl, all of that. It's not a secret that that's happening in Canada. It's not a secret that that's happening in certain provinces, BC being one of them. The amount of fentanyl overdose and deaths that we have in Canada has skyrocketed. It hasn't gotten better since they added all this safe supply. It's gotten worse. So she's basically saying, you're saying that we're the fentanyl problem in Mexico. Have you looked at Canada? So, and it's a very valid point. They're giving it away. So we'll go to the next topic. So Donald Trump made a tweet yesterday. I hope you guys can still hear me okay. So if let me know if the sound's okay. If it's not scratching, if it's still scratching, let me know. I'll try to control my voice, but if you can hear me at least, let me know that, because I lowered it way down. So I'm not even sure if it's coming through okay. But anyways, Trump made this post. I laughed because he's trolling. So that was on December 3rd, 2024. He did it on Truth Social. So if I just joined through Truth Social because I want to see things firsthand. He doesn't post everything on Truth Social on Twitter that he does on Truth Social. I think it's like a contract thing or something, because I think he has shares in Truth Social. That kind of started when Trump was banned from Twitter. But anyways, he posted on there. Every time he posts something outrageous there, it makes its way to Twitter, which this clearly did. And a lot of people are saying some things about it. A lot of people are making insinuations, but there's one guy, and I thought I had saved it, but I don't think I did. There's one guy that says Donald Trump. I'm just going to see here. I'm going to look through. I don't want to ruin it for you guys and show you everything I'm going to be talking about ahead of time. I'm going to see if I can find it. Okay, here it is. So John Paul Burt, I don't know who he is. I didn't look him up, so don't come at me if he's like a hater or whatever. I just saw this take and I'm like, yeah, I agree with that. I'm convinced there's something to all this. It's no coincidence that Trump would make that joke, nor is it a coincidence that news of it was leaked. Everything seems tactical, right down to the hotel accommodation. Now, this ambiguous post, there's something big behind the scene that we are unaware of. So, and for those who are listening and not watching, what I'm showing is a post of Trump. It's a picture that's clearly made of AI. It looks like mountains, similar to mountains we would see in Canada. Some people are saying this is a Swedish mountain. Maybe it is. It's AI. Doesn't really matter. There's a big Canadian flag, and Trump is like standing there looking out to the mountains, and you can kind of see his profile from the back and a little bit to the side. And he has the words called "Oh Canada." This is after the joke that he made, or statement that he made when Trudeau came to see him at Lago, Mara-Lago, that Trudeau and Trump had they had a conversation. Trudeau's like, don't put tariff. It's gonna affect it's gonna destroy our Canadian economy. And basically Trump says, well, if you can't survive without taking advantage of $100 billion of basically trade deficit. So Canada sells more to the US than the US sells to Canada, in the tune of $100 billion. So it's going to, if you can't survive without taking advantage of the US, maybe you should become the 51st state and you can be the governor. And then someone in the crowd said, but no, that would be a Democrat state. And then Trump says, well, maybe we'll split it in two. But yeah, you could be the governor. And it was a light joke. They all laughed. But anyways, that came out. Everyone's been talking about it. Everyone's been joking about it. And some people are upset that Canadians are saying, yes, please, that they're taking it way too seriously. Some people are calling them traitors. I've talked about it a little bit. I think that whole calling them traitors is ridiculous. I think we need to recognize why some people are even saying, yes, please. We need to recognize that there's a huge problem in Canada where people don't feel represented or heard. That was extenuated during COVID. And there still hasn't been anything done about it to make sure it never happens again. And the biggest hope that most of these people who were very affected by it have is that the truth is going to come out in the US. So they're looking to the US almost to save Canada, to bring that truth into Canada. And I think it's because of the majority of conservatives in Canada were complicit, versus in the US it wasn't. It was, when it came to the vaccine mandates and all of that, it wasn't Trump in power anymore. It was Biden. So a lot of the things that were done by the Democrats in the US. Now that the conservatives are in government, you're starting to see things being brought to light. Now, that wouldn't happen in Canada coming from the Democrats, or what we would call the leftists. So if the conservatives were in government, the NDP in most province were demanding way more than what the conservatives were putting in. So the NDP is the left of Canada. So if there's a change in government and the NDP comes in at the provincial level where a lot of this happened, they're not going to apologize for the unvaccinated. They're not going to do what Danielle Smith has done. So we're seeing a clear big group of number basically still not getting an apology, still not getting what's the proper word that I'm looking for? Accountability for what happened. And there, nothing's been done to stop it from happening again in many of the provinces. So I think a lot of people are saying, yes, please come save us. I think that's a sector of people. There's obviously other group who are very disenfranchised with Canada. You also have to understand as well, in Canada, if you're not from here, we currently have a coalition government. So the Trudeau Liberals don't have enough seats to form majority. So they've teamed up with NDP to create a majority. So that's why we're not having an election. The NDP keeps voting with Trudeau so that he stays in power. Some people have made speculation. I believe it's because they know they're going to lose their seats. The conservatives are polling as at a super majority. So the highest I think that they've ever polled. And I think a lot of these NDP will lose their seat and they want their pension. So they're trying to hold off, and there's legislation being passed to ensure that they're going to have their legislation. Their, sorry, there's legislation being passed to ensure they're going to have their pension by pushing back the election 1 week. So obviously they're trying to work on doing that, but we'll see. So that's my thoughts on this. What do I think Trump is doing? Like he said, he doesn't do anything for nothing. I honestly think this is extremely strategic on his end. I think he's creating political pressure on the Canadian government, on the Canadian people to try to influence Canadians to push for an election sooner rather than later. I don't think Trump wants to negotiate with Trudeau. I don't think he takes him seriously, and he knows that he's going to walk all over him. And I do think Trump likes Canada. I don't think that he thinks Canada as an enemy. But when he's doing this, I think it's getting everyone to talk about, and everyone is like, we know Canada is going down the drain right now. It's not going in the right direction. We want a new government. We don't have it, and I think no, I think that just that whole discussion happening is already creating pressure. It's already being talked about in government and stuff, and it's being talked about among people. Like, when you start asking why are so many Canadians disenfranchised with Canada, and they start telling you why, you start realizing that there's a really big problem that needs to be fixed. And I think that's just that, creating pressure. It's the same thing when Tucker Carlson came to Calgary and Edmonton for his like live show. He did a phone call. He said, "I'm coming to liberate Canada. I am coming to liberate Canada." And it wasn't mean. It didn't mean he was going to start a war. Mainstream media was like, "Oh, Tr- Tucker's going to try to do an insurrection, start a war." No, he's trying to encourage and embolden Canadians to start standing up, and that's what the entire thing was about. I went there. I went to see Tucker live in Edmonton, and that's basically what it was, and it worked. Once you get all these people into a room that they see that they're not alone, they start getting emboldened to speak up more, and that actually happened. It's why they decided to have these tours, these live tours all over the US. I don't know if you know, but him coming to Canada and seeing the after effect, the emboldenment that it did for the conservative movement in Canada, they were like, we should do this all over the US. We lost an election based on basically 250,000 votes. So, like the 2020 election, what if we do this all over the US, like, and get millions of people to come in person? And then they did that all over the US. I went to the one in Phoenix that was, what date was it? It was just before our provincial election. I just can't remember. A few months ago. It was Tucker Live. Trump was there. RFK Jr. was there. Nicole Shanahan. Is that how you say it? Charlie Kirk was there. I really liked his speech. And there's a few other people. But yes, I went to see it and really enjoyed it. It went really late. I was supposed to hang out with a bunch of people at the after party, and it went so late that I think it didn't even end till like 10:30, 11. So they canceled the after party. So I never got to meet all of these people. But anyways, I'm still glad I went. It was still a really good time, and I really enjoyed Phoenix. And but yeah, I think this is completely strategic. And I welcome it. I'm trying. Okay, so the next big topic, are we getting poisoned with our milk? So I don't know if this is something that I'm just hearing about. I'm not super knowledged on it. I haven't researched everything about it. But as I already distrust a lot of big industries, and I honestly believe we are slowly being poisoned in many areas and avenues, that this, to me, this does not seem that it's not plausible to be a threat. So Peter Sweden, I don't know if you follow him. He posts a lot of stuff. He's a whistleblower that was jailed. Anyways, he tweeted about it. This, whether you like him or not, doesn't matter. The fact is he's providing this information. So this is the data safety sheet on 3 NOP, the same chemical used in Bovaer. Do you want to drink milk from cows being fed this toxic chemical? Share. Everybody must see this. So I opened it in another screen so I can read it. I don't think you guys will be able to read this, and I can't make it bigger for you to be able to read it. So I'm going to read it out loud. I opened it in another screen that I could make it really big so that I could actually read this. Let's see if I can make it big enough. There you go. So just so you guys know the background why this is being used, they're saying cows fart too much and they want cows to stop farting so much. And if you feed them this Bovaer, it makes the cows fart less. So this is all like along with the, oh, we must save the planet, the climate change, cow farts are killing the planet. This is all along that same woke ideology that's being shoved down our throats everywhere. So that's why they're using this into well, they're feeding it to cows. Apparently they're farting less. But I'll read to you what it says here. So H302, it's harmful if swallowed, warning acute toxicity. Suspected of damaging fertility or the unborn children. So if you swallow this stuff that they're feeding to cows, this is the warning that it has. There's other warnings too, but these are the two that are highlighted. It may cause a fire. That's not a warning to us. It may cause skin irritation, eye damage, eye irritation. So obviously this is a really hazard material, but apparently they're feeding this to the cows so that they fart less. So we all know that a lot of things that, and this happens in humans, I'm sure it happens in cows too. A lot of things that you eat as a mother gets put into the breast milk of your the breast milk your body is producing. And that's why there's a lot of warning on medications when you're pregnant. There's a lot of warnings. That's why they say stay away from coffee. Same thing with alcohol. It doesn't just go in your body, it actually gets secreted through the breast milk. Alcohol, I know the percentage is so little, it's less than an orange, but still, even if you're extremely intoxicated. But the fact is, it's being warned for all of this. And now they're putting it into the cows. I don't know the study that's being used to say that this is safe. We've seen over and over them saying certain things are safe, and then we're finding out that it's not so safe, like BPA, a whole bunch of these things where they said it was safe and now it's not. You're seeing that because people are getting sick. I have my personal opinion too on what is making us sick. That I've been following RFK Jr. I think he's bringing light to a lot of things. If you don't follow him already, and the things he's being, and some people have come toe to toe with me on it, and I've held my ground. We're a lot sicker now than we were 100 years ago. Why? Most children have diseases. Most children have comorbidities. You never would have seen that in the past. I believe there's a bunch of things that are causing it, but and the fact is nobody wants to study it, and I think it needs to be studied. I think we need to get answers. And this is another perfect case scenario of, oh, they're just going to start putting things for climate change into feeding cows, and then with having a potential extremely negative effect on humans that drink milk. So I'm going to stop drinking milk from cows that are fed this. More and more, I keep thinking maybe we should get a cow. For us, why are we doing this? This should not be happening. A lot of people started boycotting companies who were using milk that were made from cows who ate this stuff. So Arla Foods contaminated, they call it Bovaer. I don't know if I'm saying it right. Contaminated food boycotted by customers. So Cravendale, even Starbucks that have stopped using it. Milk that has that additives. So you're seeing that. And then there's also a website that was started that I think is really funny. It's called Full Fart Milk. So you can apparently go to this website and find out which farms are producing it and which ones aren't, which ones are avoiding it. So there's this big campaign to get rid of this. So, but anyways, yes. So Maria for Karma said, I'll show you the comment here. It is a Gates invention. She says it's probably a Gates invention. It is. So Bill Gates is behind this. Among other things that are not good for your health, Bill Gates is behind. So 55 other countries allow it. This is another comment from her. We just need to stay with the most natural path to what we ingest. And yeah, and this is something I've talked about too, but that's something I've been working on. So I have an autoimmune that I was diagnosed with. The whole fainting was a Hashimoto that was undiagnosed thyroid issue, and I've been on a journey. I hate using that word because it's like always those reality TV show always says journey, but I've been on a journey to figuring out what caused the Hashimoto. So Hashimoto is an autoimmune. Most autoimmune start in the gut. So your gut is not functioning the way it's supposed to. So I started changing a lot of things, taking vitamin D, trying to get in the sun as much as I can. Also probiotics. So I'm taking probiotics right now. I stopped drinking coffee. So if you look here, this is tea. I have David's tea. It's cream of Earl Grey, London Fog. So I stopped drinking coffee altogether. It would be now 6 weeks ago, I would say. And I know some of you are like, oh, I could never give up coffee. And I used to be that. I did a 40-day fast a few years ago. And I said, as long as I can have coffee, I'll give up everything else because I need my coffee. And and sorry, I got distracted by the comments. I'll address that after. So, yeah, I'm feeling so much better, so much more energy. I also stopped eating gluten for the most part. Like if there's like gluten in gravy in a restaurant, I'll still eat it, but the majority of the gluten I'm not eating anymore. So that was like for the last 4 weeks, and then this last week someone just kept saying you should try the carnivore diet. So now I'm doing the carnivore diet. So the only thing that I'm cheating is the tea. So tea is not carnivore, but I thought, well, I'll do as best as I can. So yeah, so that's my husband's not doing carnivore. I'm still cooking him veggies and stuff. So that's been for the last 8 days. So I'm not hungry, super energetic. I feel my mind is so much more like on top of things versus before. So yeah, it's 5 days now. So I'll let you know. I've started losing weight, which with Hashimoto, until you have it kind of under your control, which I don't, it still goes up and down. Maybe that'll change now with the carnivore diet. So, but yeah, I've had a hard time losing weight since I got diagnosed versus I never had a weight issue in my life. Even after my first 2, 3 kids, I always went back to my pre-pregnancy weight. But yeah, so I'm doing that. I'm starting also kettlebell workout. So I bought some kettlebell last week. If you don't follow Dan from Twitter, I'm trying to think what's his account here. I'm gonna search it here. Well, I just got to change the settings. Dan on X. So kettlebell Dan here. Here you go. This is his profile. So I even subscribed so I could get the content of the like he does like videos and stuff and training regiment. So I've been following Dan for a while. I really like him. So if you don't follow him, I highly recommend you do. So yeah, I even got kettlebell. So I'm starting to do that because that's really easy to do at home. I don't need to go to a gym to do it. So I thought this will be the most simple way. Okay, next topic is a serious topic, a controversial topic, which shouldn't be controversial, but I'm sure some people will target my account because they'll realize I'm pro-Israel. And I am unashamedly pro-Israel. If I had to choose between living in Israel or any other country in the Middle East, it would be Israel. Okay, so this is a post by Trump. He says, everybody's talking about the hostage who are being held so violently, inhumanely, and against the will of the entire world in the Middle East. But it's all talk and no action. Please let this truth serve to represent that if the hostages are not released prior to January 20th, 2025, the date that I proudly assume office as President of the United States, there will be all hell to pay in the Middle East. And for those in charge who perpetrated these atrocities against humanity, those responsible will be hit harder than anybody has been hit in the long and storied history of the United States of America. Please, not please, release the hostages now. So this was Trump said that, and someone made a quote tweeted that. So this was on Truth Social again. Somebody quote tweeted that and said, "Finally, someone speaks the language that terrorists understand." He's basically saying, "Look, we're gonna come back and we're gonna be brutal unless you do this." And this is the kind of language that terrorists will listen to. You're already seeing Trump's win influencing a lot of things in the Middle East. They're afraid. They're rightfully afraid. And just so you know, there was a story. If you don't know about this, this is why they're afraid of Trump. I'm gonna see if I can find it again. I should have put it up, but I didn't even think about it. There was a story on Trump and I believe Afghanistan. Trump. Hurting. It's going to be a bit hard to find, I think. But I had listened to the video. It was an interview someone did, and he talked about a meeting Trump had with, I don't know if it was Hezbollah or I really wanted to show it to you guys. Maybe I'll bring it up next time. But basically, whichever leader it was, if you know in the comments, let me know. Help me out. If you know the name of I think it was Hezbollah, some country in the Middle East, he basically brought them to Camp David and he showed a picture of the leader of this terrorist organization, a picture of his house, and he said, if you hurt a single hair on one of our American soldiers, I will be coming for you. And while he was president, while this was happening, not a single American soldier was hurt by this terrorist organization. So this is the kind of language that works with terrorists. Like, you're not just dealing with people like us, you're not just dealing with regular everyday people. You're dealing with people whose sole purpose is to terrorize, to invade, to kill and murder people who aren't like them or people who have different faiths of them. And you can't just negotiate with them using the terms you would with your neighbor. Yeah, he handed him. I'm trying to still find it here. Maybe I'll look for it while I play the next video here. I just want to make sure I don't miss. So, and some people may not know. I'll give you guys the stats on the Israeli, and then I'll play a video after because I'm not done talking about this subject. So, as of December 3rd, 2024, approximately 97 individuals abducted by Hamas on October 7th remain in captivity in Gaza. This figure includes the bodies of at least 33 individuals confirmed deceased. So out of 997, 30 of them are already confirmed deceased. They just don't have the bodies. Among the hostages still held are 115 men, 20 women, and 2 children. So that number doesn't make sense here. Notably, 10 of the hostages are age 75 or older. The majority, 126, are Israeli citizens, while 11 are foreign nationals, including 8 from Thailand. The Israeli government continues to prioritize efforts to secure. Okay, so that doesn't make sense. The Israeli government continues to prioritize efforts to secure the release of all hostages, employing diplomatic channels and military operations. I don't know if you've seen some of the military operations that have happened where they've rescued hostages. It was all over X. The situation remains dynamic with ongoing development as authorities work towards their safe return. I have a few articles here, but yeah, I just asked ChatGPT. I'm going to ask it to clarify. See what comes up. How I'm just asking him. Asking him. It's a male voice when I do ChatGPT, so. Okay, so the reason, so it explained, the 115 men, though that was earlier number. So ChatGPT, just so you know, it's the last download was like in October of 2024, but it can bring up sources, but it's saying, 97 is what currently remains in captivity. So that's the number. The figure of men and women and stuff, that was from a previous release when there was still more of them in captivity. So ChatGPT is not perfect. It has its downfalls, and the fact that it's not like up to date downloads or whatever you call it, it it's not always you always have to kind of double check. It has a few articles too that it links to it. So yeah. But anyways, I just asked it because I wanted to have an idea how many were still in captivity. Now I'm going to tell you my thoughts. On top of just if I had to choose which country to live in the Middle East, I would choose Israel every single day. So that's my thoughts. I also am a Christian. I know what the Bible says. I know what it says that's going to happen, and I believe the Bible to be the true word of God and truth. So with that, because of my faith, because I have a specific mindset that I can't change and I will not change, because that's the truth to me. That's the ultimate truth, and everything needs to be compared with that. That's one thing. Secondly, I have friends on both sides. I actually have a friend who's from that I met kind of through the Million Person March. I have some Muslim friends, some that are from Palestine, and they're part of the ones organizing the protests in Saskatoon, the Palestine protests in Saskatoon. We've met after October 7th occurred. We had some discussions. Are there bad stories on both sides? Yes, I agree. There are evil people evil everywhere. There's evil people in Israel. There's evil people in Palestine. and I don't like war. I also force myself to watch all the stuff that occurred October 7th. I've seen horrible after horrible after horrible videos. I wanted to see what the truth was. I also watched the videos from both sides, and I critically evaluate everything that I was seeing. I critically evaluate what um, what is currently happening, how the anti-Semitism I'm seeing, how Israel is being held to a different standard than the rest of the world when it comes to war, when it comes to not retaliating, but responding to an attack. And I see this, and I'm telling you this as my perspective as a Christian. I see this as biblical warrant and biblical scripture, and I see it as a spiritual war just as much as it is a physical war. People that I see worship Satan absolutely despise Jews, despise the people of Israel, the the people that God speaks of very highly, whether they have faults or not. They are God's chosen people. Am I God's chosen people too? Yeah, I am. But the fact of the matter is, if you even looking at it from a lot of what we're seeing doesn't make sense. A lot of what we're seeing, the people who are targeting my friends who are Jews, it doesn't make sense. They've never done anything to you just for the simple fact that they're Jews. And if you look back in history, the same thing has happened. It is a spiritual war just as much as it is a physical war. And the devil doesn't like what God loves. And I think that, and like I said, my show is called Salt and Light for a reason. I bring truth to what is happening, but I also bring a biblical and Christian perspective to what is happening. And even just in Canada, seeing some of my Jewish friends being targeted, the things that are being said about them, and people that I used to know and love, like friends of mine, not just the people in the Muslim groups, even people who I thought were Christians are being some of the biggest people who are producing the most amount of hatred I've ever seen. Conservatives are supposed to be the ones who judge people based on their character, the strength of character, not the color of their skin, not their religious background, not their faith, not where they were born from. You judge them based on the strength of character. Anything else, I honestly think it is evil. I've been really disappointed in people who I used to know and call friends, and I've distanced myself from them. And I honestly think it's a between good and evil, and that's what we're seeing. And yeah, that's my stance. Is it going to be divisive? Are people going to unfollow me? Yeah, I couldn't care less. I stood on my grounds, still stood on my moral convictions during COVID when I lost many friends. People probably disowned me then, although not many told me to my face. And I'm going to stand on my convictions and moral grounds here. And do I think there you can show me somebody who's Jewish who does something evil? It doesn't make all of them evil. I know some people have tried to do that, uh, tried to show me that. Again, if I had to choose a country I would live in, the Middle East, I would choose Israel every single day. Israel is our ally, and Israel is not saying death to Canada. And while other people who are from other countries in the Middle East are, and that's not going to change. Most likely not going to change because it's a conviction I feel in my Holy Spirit. Do I like war? No, I don't. I don't like that people are dying. I don't like that innocent Palestinians are dying, but I also don't put that blame on Israel. It is a war. I put that blame on Hamas, who are using them as human shields over and over and over again, who are hiding underneath schools, who are hiding underneath hospitals, who are using them as human shields. There was a photo that somebody posted, and it encompasses, and also, again, could there be one rogue Israeli soldiers? Yes, you there will be evil people everywhere, but as a general, that's my stance. But yeah, there's a photo that I saved. I thought, oh, I want to save this one because it perfectly encompasses this war. I'm pretty sure it was here and it wasn't on Twitter. Or maybe I'll find it and show it later on. Again, do I think Israel is perfect? No, not by any means. But I also don't think Canada is perfect by any means. I don't think we're all humans. We're all going to make errors. We're all going to make mistakes. But if you look at the ideology of the two countries, and not just that, I don't think Hamas being in charge of Palestine is what's best for Palestinians either. I think my friend who's from there, he is writing a book, and I asked him to send it to me once it's done, because I've heard his perspective. He shared his story, his heartbreaking story. They came and he had an olive farm, and they basically came and took the farm and said, go live somewhere else. I don't agree with that. I don't think everything Israel has done is right, but I also know there's a lot of lies being told out there. And I'm probably going to do a video on it, dismantling the lies of the woke left. And when it comes to this war, because I've seen so much lies perpetrated, and like, for example, they're saying that they hate all Muslims and Arabs, but the fact is that their government in Israel is formed with Muslims and Arabs. Their whole country has 20% Muslim and Arabs population. They still do to this day. They haven't kicked them out. Basically, they said anyone who's not going to attack us can stay when there was a big war. Many of them went to the border to try to fight Israel, and they ended up not being a part of Israel. Even in their founding documents of Israel, they give just as much rights to Muslims and Arabs than they do Jews. Like, you can't say that they're committing genocide on a type of population when their country is formed of that population. So, but yeah, most people don't know that. They just hear the talking points of the woke left, and they get brainwashed. And I know that because I used to be one of those people until I started looking into things myself. I used to be one of those brainwashed. I used to hate Trump. I used to hate Harper. I used to hate all of these people because that's what the media taught me to believe and think. And it wasn't until I got out of that I started researching things for myself and realizing we are lied to so much. But anyway, speaking of media, my next subject, this is going a bit longer than I thought. But anyways, they're always going to go longer than I thought. If you're still listening, great. I think there's 283 of you listening live. Come here for your dose of moral clarity, while at the same time me telling you research yourself. But yeah, this next video, I thought it was funny. So here, let's make it bigger so you guys can listen to it. It's funny because this is I don't know how much they're going to dance around all of this, or how they're going to try to side with Hunter and Biden now, but here you go. I thought it was comical when I watched it, and I hope you have a laugh too, now that we're done talking about a really serious subject.
Democrats have a moral perch from which they can judge without shame, hypocrisy, or nuance.
Breaking news, President Biden has issued a pardon for his son, Hunter Biden.
Mother... We were so close. But you know what? Good. Get fine. It's good. It's right. It's his right. He's an 82-year-old man. Doesn't want to spend the rest of his life visiting his son in prison. Republicans get away with this shit all the time. I'm sure the pardon is a narrowly written, precisely drawn farewell note of compassion for a loved one.
The pardon sweeping, covering offenses that Hunter Biden, quote, has committed or may have committed or taken part in over the past 11 years.
Years is a very specific and not rounded amount of time. So, Hunter, I'll give you a pardon. Well, a few years, 5 years, 10 years. It needs to be 11.
The system that convicted his only surviving son is the same justice system he's vowed to protect. And if that doesn't tell you who Joe Biden is, I don't really know what does.
I think I know what does. And now look at the dance Democrats have to do.
Be honest, the only reason why they went after Hunter the way they did, and I've talked to many federal prosecutors about this, is because he's the president's son.
Crowing from Republicans, but we're talking about, Donald Trump is a convicted felon who literally had pardoned his daughter's father-in-law and just made him ambassador to France.
Biden's decision is done. Look how confident and eloquent our Democratic representatives were back when they thought they had the moral high ground on this issue.
I've not heard a single Democrat anywhere in the country cry fraud, cry fixed, cry rigged, cry kangaroo court. You don't hear a single peep out of any Democrat saying that why we believe in the rule of law.
And now look at what even he, one of the most verbally dexterous attorneys we have on Capitol Hill, has been reduced to.
Do you think President Biden should pardon Hunter Biden?
So there are lots of claims of political prosecution and political.
And was Hunter politically?
Well, I mean, obviously that's a judicial point, and you've got to look at what the evidence is. And I don't know enough.
So should the president pardon him?
I mean, again, that is a unilateral executive power. Power that.
And should he use it?
Well, the power exists for the president to show mercy for people.
I mean, we have an executive, and we have a judicial, and then a legislative, and then smoke bomb.
Oh, and that's what's his name here? Let me see here. That's Jon Stewart. So he's like a far lefty comedian. So the fact that he's saying these things, oh, I find it comical. So, okay, what else is there to cover here? You know what? My next subject, I'll just go briefly on it to try to get this episode over to save you guys because it's going on quite long. I won't play
in the weeks,
but I'll just let you know because I'll probably be talking about this once the episode is released. So Tucker just went back to Moscow, so Russia, and he's interviewing someone. So he says in the video, but I won't play it because it's a bit long, but he's going to interview, I think it's the defense minister for Putin, and he talks about, I'll play this video tomorrow and then I'll share my thoughts. I might even play little parts of the interview, the ones that I find interesting, if I have time to kind of write down notes and stuff. But I don't know if you saw his interview, Tucker's interview with Putin, but I watched the whole thing. It was extremely interesting. And as someone who's trained to profile, you can tell Putin has had profile training, interviewing techniques training. He controlled the entire interview. And his choice of words were really interesting as well. And the things he decided to bring up, he definitely right away made himself like the authority over that interview. This is not a dig at Tucker Carlson. It's just to show the kind of training that Putin has had and the intellect superiority that Putin has, the intellect superiority. Yeah, that Putin has, how smart he is, how well trained he is, and how competent he is. This is not saying that I like Putin or that I think he's great. I'm just saying facts. He is extremely intelligent. He had positions in the past before he became the president or whatever his title is. I think it's president. It might be prime minister. I think it's president in that country. But he controlled that interview. He was very meticulous with his choice of words based on, even though it was translated for me, like when he brought up that Tucker had tried to join the Secret Service or the FBI, or whatever it was, he right there was just to bring Tucker down a notch. Like, you couldn't even get into that, but we know you tried. Like, I was that kind of thing. It was just, he very much controlled the interview. Very, very intelligent. And it made me realize one thing. That in itself, the fact that we have other world leaders that are going up against someone like that, made me realize how weak Canada was because of the leader that we have. If you're going to have a leader of a country being mocked and made fun of because of his lack of IQ, lack of intelligence, lack of solutions, you don't want someone like that leading your country when you have other countries who have leaders who is as intelligent, as strategic as Putin. While while Putin is playing chess, we have Trudeau playing snakes and ladders. That's how I'm going to compare it. And just watching that interview made me really, really afraid for my country, just because I realized the kind of leaders that they have in other countries are not even coming close with when it comes to the intellect of ours. And yeah, you can agree or disagree. Again, I'm not saying I like Putin, I like what he's doing, or that I like this war. But I think it's, again, like I was misled before in the past. I think there's more happening that we're not being told. And about this war, I do have really big concerns about Ukraine and all the money that Canada is sending there. That I don't think I think basically the world is picking a war with Russia, who has nuclear weapons, and I think we're closer to World War III in nuclear war than we've ever been in the past. And I think it's time we have adults come into on the table at the table to have discussions, and that does not mean Trudeau. I think when you're considering having adults come to the table, I do consider Trump being that. Does he have moments of immaturity where his pride takes over? Yes, but he's also well respected and feared by Putin, and that to me has more likely chance than that World War III won't happen. Again, I'm not pro Russia. I'm not pro Ukraine. I'm not invested enough to pick a side, anyways. I am pro democracy. Ukraine is being shown to be a democratic country, although I have questions. I'm not saying that that Ukraine is not a democracy, but I have questions. As in, there's a lot of stuff, even linked to like Hunter Biden. There's a lot of money laundering, and I do think that's happening. But yeah, so I'll watch the interview. I'll come back and give you a synopsis of my thoughts on it. I just did my synopsis on what I thought of the Putin Tucker interview. And I think that's it. Oh, last thing. There's one more thing here. I'm going to recommend you guys go watch this video. I'm not going to play it. I'm just really excited that this is being addressed. Here, I'm just going to switch the screen. So Andrew Scheer did a video. This was a few days ago, November 28th. It doesn't have a title here, but there was a title.
This is a top sirloin cut.
So he did a video talking about the $9 million Canadian money, taxpayer dollars, that went to fund a cricket farm that was created for human consumption. The company's now shockingly losing money So says he makes beef. I got hiccups now. He makes beef and chicken and more expensive with his carbon tax than wastes money on wacko ideas. So the video is 9 minutes 50 seconds long. So I'm not going to play it, but it's extremely well done. It's extremely it follows a really nice order. It's easy to listen to watch, and they put a lot of graphics. Whoever made that video did an extremely good job. Keep them hired and do more of it, because this is the kind of stuff we need to see to start waking up Canadians. So not only I'm going to see though if I can kind of there's an area where he starts talking about where is this coming from. There you go, right here. So I will also admit I prefer this new Andrew Scheer. I prefer the Andrew Scheer after he stopped being the leader of the Conservative Party. He's a lot more bold in what he says and how he brings information to light than he was when he was the leader of the Conservative Party. I felt like there was no personality. He's being way more bold now, way more personality, and way more unafraid of talking about the subject that the media will probably attack him for. It wouldn't shock me if the media was to, I'm going to take this out because it's kind of starting to hurt me. Yeah, the media will probably attack him from bringing awareness to this. But I'm just going to play this section of the video. I'm going to see if I can do it up here. Where are we at? 5 minutes, 28 seconds. There you go.
They're milking rats! Milking rats! Rats? I'm outraged. You promised me dog or hire.
Now, where did Justin Trudeau get this idea from? Well, this was another idea that came out of the World Economic Forum. Remember that? This is an organization that has pumped out all kinds of crazy ideas, like in the future, you'll own nothing and be happy, or eating bugs. This was literally a policy proposal made by the World Economic Forum back in 2022, just around the same time that Justin Trudeau wrote this big fat check from taxpayers' money to subsidize cricket production in Canada. These are all wacko ideas that come from a group of global elites who want to plan your life for you while they still get to live their high-flying, jet-setting, hypocrite lifestyle. And of course, remember, when they get called out on it, the reaction of the Trudeau Liberal crowd is to accuse others of spreading conspiracy theories. Except they're actually funding cricket production.
So, like I said, go watch this video. I'll probably talk about it a little bit more. Now, why do I like that the Conservatives are creating some of this stuff? Many of us who are watching this were like, yeah, we've been talking about this since COVID. Some of us even before COVID. But what I like is it's now being made mainstream. Now you have politicians emboldened on talking about it. And I talk about this all the time. We probably wanted them to talk about it back during COVID. They didn't. But we don't understand. A lot of us want change right away today. We have to understand the concept of the Overton window. And I'll talk about that in a second. But not just the Overton window. Government is downstream from society. That's just always been like that. It always will be like that. If you want government to go into one direction, you have to work on swaying public opinion. That's what we have done as an organization. The organization I founded called Unified Grassroots. That's what we did during COVID. We were very strategic in our approach. That's what we did when it came to the parental rights legislation. Everything we've lobbied for, we've been successful in getting, but we worked on swaying public opinion. And why is that important? there is a concept called the Overton window. If a government does anything that's outside of that Overton window, they become canceled, they get changed, they lose election. They have to work within that Overton window, which is the window of the general public, not the right wing that always vote conservative, or the left wing that always vote left leaning or NDP or liberal, but the people who are undecided voters. That would be like the Overton window. You want to sway that. And that's what we worked on as an organization. That's where media comes in. The problem we've had in the last few decades is the media only sways one direction. Now you're starting to have more independent media start to bring awareness into what is happening. So now that Overton window is moving again. Now, why am I excited to see videos like that? Because it means that Overton window has moved when it comes to addressing things like the World Economic Forum, some of the policies, the 15-minute city. If you see that, there was a quick glimpse of an article where, and they're all, the media will attack conservatives and say, oh, these are conspiracy theories. They're actually happening, and they're starting to provide the data and the information that it's happening. And that's what Andrew Scheer here is doing such a good job at in this video. He's bringing the data in, he's bringing awareness, and he's doing it in a video that's very well done, very high level. Again, whoever he hired did a really good job. Keep them hired. And he's bringing that information to the general public that the media is not bringing, and he's reaching the general public. Let's see how many views that video has. 150,000 views, and that's just on Twitter. I saw it on Facebook. I saw it on YouTube as well. So YouTube probably has even more. Now you have the undecided voters in the middle that's now going to be like, yeah, I don't want to be forced to eat bugs. I don't want them to take away my meat. I don't want this. They're more likely to vote conservative. And you're seeing that happening more and more and more as conservatives start putting out really good content, informing Canadians of what is happening. And what I love is now what would have been controversial to talk about or even say 3-4 years ago, now it's mainstream. Now we can say the World Economic Forum is an insane left-leaning, far left-leaning organization that's made of elitists that will stand the most to profit from these policies, and we should not be implementing what they're recommending. And now you have politicians who are currently elected talking about it. And I think that gives me hope that we're going in the right direction. And congratulations, Andrew Scheer, for making a really great video to bring awareness to this to the Canadian public. I know he used the angle of, oh, they're wasting taxpayers' dollars, but he used a subject to bring awareness as to other things that the World Economic Forum is pushing for and why we should be pushing against it. And but yeah, if I'll put the video, the link of the video in the comments too. I'll see if I can post it here, if it lets me, but I just don't know if it posts everywhere or not. There you go. I'm just going to read this comment quick. It's quite long. Yeah, okay. So Stephen here gives like basically a definition of the Overton window. I probably could have done a better job at explaining it, but so you can read it. Is the idea that defines the spectrum of acceptability of government policies. It says politicians can act only within the acceptable range. Shifting the Overton window involves proponents of policies outside the window persuading the public to expand the window. Very good definition of that. So I'll give you a good example of that as well. So where the Overton window would have been completely switched. If you don't know my family's history or my husband's family's history, my father-in-law is one of the 13 farmers that went to jail over the wheat board. So basically, a bunch of farmers grabbed a pail of wheat or oats or whatever it was, crossed the border into the US, sold it to a 4-H club, and came back. And they let the border know they were going to do this so that they would be arrested and charged. They were fined. It wasn't a criminal fine. It was like a summary conviction, like a civil fine or something like that. It wasn't like criminal. He didn't get a criminal report or criminal charge or report. It was something else. Anyways, he didn't pay the fine. He was just fined. He didn't pay it. But when you don't pay your fines, you can go to jail. So him and a bunch of other farmers, I think there was more than 13 at the time, but him and a bunch of farmers went to jail. And then it all throughout all of this happening kept creating a bunch of like public awareness news. So at the time when they did it, the public wasn't on the side of the farmer. It actually was on the opposite side. And this was outrageous just what they were doing. And over time, as more of it was talked about, they even created uh a news company that did newspapers to sway public opinion. David Anderson, who became an MP after that, was very involved with that, with writing articles and stuff. Anyways, they worked on swaying public opinion. And eventually, as they went through jail, it was so ridiculous that farmers got jailed for several weeks for selling a 5-pound pail of grain across the border of their own grain. So how it was before then, the government, the wheat board would say what the farmers would get. So they would control the price. They would say you can't sell it to anyone other than to the government, and then the government will work on selling it to the rest of the world. Now, some will be like, "Oh, well, that's good." Some will say that was good. Sorry, that's my alarm to remind me to pick up my son in a few hours from now. I have like 5 alarms so I don't end up being late and forget about it. And so basically, the government had the monopoly on what farmers made. But it wasn't everywhere. This was just in the western provinces. Ontario and Quebec could sell to whoever they wanted for however they wanted. So this was a lot of farmers were upset that again Quebec and Ontario were treated better than the rest of the Canada. And they fought, but they moved that Overton window. And eventually the wheat board was abolished. Harper actually came and gave all of the farmers that went to jail that got charged that didn't have other stuff, gave them a pardon. My father-in-law was one of those people. So yeah, and that's where I learned how do you sway public opinion? How do you move the window? There's many ways you do it, and this is just this is what we did it and continue to do as an organization. If you don't follow our organization Unified Grassroots, you can subscribe to it. We do email updates and stuff. unifiedgrassroots.com. You can follow us on Facebook. We have a Twitter account, but we don't have a ton of followers. Most people just follow me on Twitter. So, but yeah, I think this is a great video. I think it's great that politicians are starting to talk about World Economic Forum and their insane wacko policy, as Sheer calls it. But yeah, I'll leave you guys with this. I'll be on again tomorrow, probably closer to 11. We'll see. It just depends how long it takes me to prep for the episode and get everything kind of figured out. Usually I have by the end of the day, I have an idea of what I'll be talking about, but then it's just finding all the videos to get it ready. I didn't realize this production is a lot more work than I initially thought, but I'm really enjoying it. So yeah, if you don't follow me already, I'm on all social media, Nadine G. Ness, on YouTube, on Facebook, as well as Twitter. And yeah, I'll bring some Canadian, American, world news to you. I do it from a conservative Christian perspective. So I am biased. I'm not going to say I'm not biased. I share my own personal opinions. And yeah, hopefully I'll bring even more truth to you guys and help some of you realize that what they feed to us in the mainstream, mainstream media is not always the truth. And I want to help wake people up the way I was woken up to. Like I said, I used to be brainwashed. I used to believe everything they said until I started realizing they lie a lot. But anyways, I'll let you go for now. Have a good afternoon, guys.